Welcome, everyone. I think we're going to start. It's about 5 minutes past the time. So I would like to welcome you. So you are in the workshop called Collective Storytelling, Creative Reflection, and Musical Creativity. There's not going to be much talking during the first 20 minutes. So this is the opportunity for me to welcome you and remind you of the rule. First, I'm asking you to ground yourself, be here and now. And I would like for us to take a deep breath just to make sure that we are grounded in the here and now. So let's do it all together. So feel your way back into your body. And I'm asking everybody to turn on the camera for full participation, or please exit the room. So our journey together is, first we're gonna listen to a creation story. Then we will use that creation story to create group stories. And by that, I mean you will be into breakout rooms and you will work as a group to create another story based on the creation stories that you've heard. And you will gonna have about 20 minutes to do that, and it's gonna go pretty quickly. And there will be prompts that will be directed toward to your group for that. Then the next step is that we will reconvene, debrief, and discuss, and then in the end, we'll have words of wisdom. I see a couple of people who have not turned on their camera, and I'm gonna have it very strict. So please, Carmen and Michelle, turn on your camera, or I'm gonna ask you to exit the room. Thank you. I also have Aiden. Perfect, great. So we'll begin. Her creation story. I was born on my ancestors' land in Bassa, an eastern water reservoir between the Mbende River and the Hindi River. My mother said, I came out before she could make it into the room. My mother said, I came out before she could lay down on the bed. My mother also said, I stayed 3 moons longer inside her womb. Like the elephant, I had a long development period. My birth was before the new moon, at dawn, during a warm, windy morning. Around 5 years ago, I remember going up the stairs. It was around 7:20 p.m. Suddenly, my knee gave up into the ground. My back leaned against the wall, and I sank into an illuminated darkness. The spiritual portal opened beneath my feet, and I stepped into my consecration story. My throne name is Peace Elephant, and I am a warrior princess. I live in the land where all the stories come to be told, and I belong to the Women's Order of Bach. I practice our ancient and sacred art, balance of the body. In our spiritual sanctuary, my quest is to harmonize social relationship. So the next step in this process is, create your group stories. So I'm gonna ask David to break you into breakout rooms, and there should be no more than 5 people into your groups. The purpose of getting into the breakout rooms, again, is to create your group stories based on the creation stories that you just heard. The first step when you go into your breakout room is to think of your vision as a group for her story, and how do you contribute to bring that story to life. And you will have about 3 minutes to go through each of the prompts that you will have. So the first prompt is to draw your story, your group story. Then is to create an act or theater act about that story. The next one is then to sing the story. Once you go through those 3 steps, then you will be asked to wrap up your group story. And then you will be asked to create a minute presentation of your story. So David, when you're ready, they will be getting into the groups. And the one thing that I wanna encourage you to do is to use your imagination. There will be no right or wrong. This is your interpretation of what you think the next story could be from what you just heard. David? David, I see one person. Oh, never mind. I was gonna say I see one person remaining, but the person is gone. Okay, great. Thank you.
She's also a grad assistant, so that's why she's not sure if she should be participating. But I sent her a message. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
All good.
Then we will start the countdown for the.
And would you like me to be broadcasting messages to say you should be moving on to acting, you should be moving on to singing?
Yes.
Okay. So group 2 asked for help. Okay, let me go to group 2 and I'll be right back.
And I'm gonna let you know kind of when to switch them.
that group too, they had some structure questions, and I just told them that it's open-ended, so it's up for them to interpret. And I said I could ask if you were interested in coming into the room. Yeah, okay, that's what I
Yeah,
said.
figure it out.
Okay.
That's the purpose of the collective storytelling. It's
Love it.
yeah, if anybody comes back, you say it's your group's decision, figure it out.
All right, I'll let
Yeah.
them know. One request, Veronica, can we put the instructions in the chat?
Yes, we can. And if you can let everybody know to move to the next part.
Okay.
And I will copy that and paste.
Rana, can you just let me know when it's time for the next session?
I have been trying to let you know. So whenever you're not in this main room with me, I cannot communicate with you. So
You can't send me a private message?
even the message does not get to you because you're not in the meeting.
Okay, so which section should it be on?
So right now they should be actually wrapping up their acting.
Okay. I'll send the message now.
Okay.
We can go a little bit over time just because, yeah, if that's okay.
That's okay with me. I just want to make sure that I have enough time to do the rest. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So so after you send that message, 3 minutes after, I have them move to the next activity.
Okay.
So everything is 3 minutes, 3 minutes.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
I'm gonna send out the last message.
Perfect. And that is to prep the 1 minute.
Sorry, I meant the second to last message, the sing, because we're all three behind. And we're
Okay,
gonna get more time.
got it. So wrapping up their group stories then.
Yep. Okay, I'm gonna send the 1-minute message to wrap up.
Super. Thank you.
Closing the rooms now.
Excellent. Welcome back, everybody. So, how did it go? I see nods, I see smiles. I'm not hearing anything, and I'm wondering if you are hearing me. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we are.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I thought something happened and I froze in time. All right. So I asked a question and I received no answer. So let's just go and move into each group presenting their stories. So who is the first group, David? Who's
So
in
our
the first group?
first group, give me 1 second. Breakout rooms. Our first group is Emily, Henry, and Virginia.
Okay. And I'm gonna just remove the PowerPoint presentation so we can each be present and see each other. There you go. So right now we are the part of the of this gathering where we discuss and debrief. So first group, go.
So you want us to discuss or you want us to share?
No, present your 1 minute story first.
Got it. Okay. Group one, I'll start.
I was born by the river in Mississippi. My father, got parents were there. In the big city, surrounded by farmers, I was baptized right away. And my parents said, I smiled right away when I opened my first memory was snow and lay the blanket on the seat. Was my first time seeing snow in its natural beauty, captivating, something I never saw. Being around people and laughter have been part of my life. I see the world and it's beautiful and beautiful.
Excellent. I love it. I couldn't quite hear what you were saying, but I just love the expression of all your bodies. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much. Next group.
Group 2 is Elizabeth, Len, and Michelle.
So there are so many stories that happen in this world, but our group ended up with our creations by each of us individually state what we have done today. So today I just simply participated 3 organizations, conferences, which prepare for the International Education Weeks. So I'm gonna just hand it to another person, Michelle and Professor Warden.
So for me, my story was that today I had a class and then I babysitted my brother. I feed him and I also had to make time to complete a homework and then I'm here.
I love it. I love it. Her story, you stuck to it. Love it. Thank you. And the final group, did we have 3 groups?
Sorry, we have 4 groups. So group,
4 groups, okay.
Group 3, Aiden, Carmen, Tracy. And Aiden, Carmen, and Tracy.
So our story is co-constructed and it begins on a dark night, middle of the night, a husband and wife driving, the husband in a new car showing off all of the gadgets, the wife focusing, the husband playing in the car, speeding, the husband racing through red lights, hoping to be able to use the excuse that his wife is having a baby if he gets pulled over. And the thrill and the focus bring them all the way to a hospital in a town called Neptune, at a hospital that no longer exists. So through the night and around a racetrack and through red lights, the baby arrives.
The baby is born and is brought home to a warm and loving household. He is loved by his family. He grows older and meets friends and explores the world around him. And Soon he becomes an adult of his own and repeats the cycle with his own children.
That's our story.
Excellent. I love how you recreated, like you made your own interpretation of the story. That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. And the final group.
That's Beck, Suzanne, and Tia.
So our group started with a drawing as we talked about kind of things we had together and in common and talked about what our story could look like.
Excellent.
Yep. So we kind of related to the fact that we all were women, and we kind of compare that to plants and roots. We came up with a little snippet of something. So it's women, us women are like plants. Our roots are planted deep into the soul of the soil. Our roots move through barriers and boulders. We stay firm amongst forces like the wind. Through it all, we prevail.
Beautiful.
And even though our stories look different, we're all connecting and rooted into the ground and connecting through branches.
I love it. 4 groups, 4 different stories, 4 different interpretations. And for me, that's the beauty of how I do my work. Just because everybody comes in and they bring in their own cultural baggage, and that influences the way stories are told. And I want to bring this back to when I had my conversation with Emily and we were kind of imagining what this will be. Emily asked me 3 questions, and she asked me to share about who I am, the work that I do, and why I do this work. And for me, who I am, the story that I shared with you is actually a fiction of my own story. And it's a continuation. So what I'm doing right now is that I am actually creating a graphic novel of my own story. And this is a continuation of my research. And what I do is that I use art as a way to help people reconnect to themselves. And I say words for me are overrated. If we can just live in an imaginary land, that's where I will live. And that's why I do the work that I do. And one thing I want to point out in the story where I say I live in the land where all the stories come to be told, that's actually the translation of the name of my village where I come from in Cameroon. And for me, even having that name as the land of my ancestors, for me it tells about who I am and also the way I want to do my work. And I don't care about writing, I don't care about words, but I care about how what we do actually make us feel. So, and I know that at the beginning I said something that might have kind of make people feel very uncomfortable, but it was this idea of seeing each other. And the question that I have for you and where I want us to start the conversation is, would you have done it what would have been your process if you couldn't see everybody? How would you have felt in that way? Because I tell people we can make up excuses, but we always have the bandwidth to watch Netflix or do everything that we want to do. But when it comes to actually participating and doing things together as a community, we always find excuses to have half of ourselves present. And in order to do this collectively, we all need to be fully present. So I'm going to open the floor and have us start the debrief about what the process was like. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, I feel that I've been rescued by you because, the Zoom era now, people that want to stay away, they are away. And no, even though professors say you have to turn on your camera, some do, but they're not present. They keep looking away. They're not. So be intentional. I actually, this is my first semester, and my professor, when I said about we should do a breathing exercise in the beginning, so to ground everybody here, to make sure everybody's present. And he said, "Oh, Virginia, that's a good idea." So every time we start a class, we have this breathing exercise. And when you start with your breathing exercise, just be grounded. It was like, yes, I'm not alone. So thank you for that. I thought it's incredible how, we started at like not even 1 hour. I already feel connected. I already feel that, I trust the people that I was with, and I already feel happier. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your thoughts. You can go, I can call on you, your choice.
Sure, I'll start. For us, it was really hard not to have any scaffolding. I'm not joking. I think for a full 5 minutes, we just, like, what do we do? What do we do? And then we really started to run out of time. And Lynn and Michelle had the good idea of like, okay, well, everyone can have their story of their day, like what brought us here today. And you saw mine being stressed out because while I was trying to be in that space of figuring out our story, I see my 9-year-old out this front window here without a coat on, walking to the market, and it's 40 degrees out. So like all I'm thinking about is like, how did she get out the door? I'm texting my husband, I'm like, did you let her out without a coat? And so again, it's how much we rely on some sort of external scaffolding to be present, right? If you'd given us a set of questions, we'd have been able to do it. But once we didn't have that set of questions, it was hard. So I appreciated that challenge. Thank you.
That's beautiful. Let me ask you, for your group, how did it feel within the body? And especially when you had that 5 minutes of struggle? And people of your group can actually jump in.
Lynn or Michelle, how did it feel?
Yeah, just like want to echo with what Professor Warren had previously mentioned. Like it's a little bit hard, especially when we are without some certain scaffold. And just like I was just somehow wondering, like whether it is because we're so engaging to some very scientific thinking patterns that make us thinking like we need to actually have some structures or very systematic ways to thinking about the stories, but these activities actually just, I think, implicitly tell us just get a little bit away just from what we have previously thinking, or we can change a little bit about our thinking patterns a little bit to be very open, don't struggle a lot. And yeah, that's just my feeling.
So for me, I felt completely lost because I didn't know if I was the only one in that position of what I was supposed to do, or what like I didn't had no questions to follow, and I wanted to go back to reading the story again, but then I was like, no, I think it's not necessary. But I was like, my mind was like just going over what, like I wanted to go back to the story. But also when we presented all our stories, I was like, oh, that wasn't that difficult at all. It wasn't we didn't needed to think that hard actually. So but that was a completed challenge.
Beautiful, thank you. Who goes next? What has been your experience? What was your struggle? Yes, Beck, go ahead.
I know certainly in our group there was much confusion, especially at the beginning, where we kind of sat there and said, okay, what's going on? Let's take a pause. Let's get to know each other a little bit. I know I came in and was kind of relaxed from the breathing exercise, and then we got this and the tension came in and the confusion. So it was nice to be able to kind of find that connection there. Well, we're all confused and kind of figuring it out from there, but I'm sure my group might have other things to say.
So who were people in your group? What were your feelings?
Yeah, I think to kind of go off of what Beck just said, it was confusion. And I guess because we are in a space where we try to have stuff very clear and concise and all that all the time, just because we want to be right? You want to make sure you're doing it correctly all the time. But that also doesn't leave room for creativity. And I think that's kind of what your goal with this activity was. But our whole focus really was trying to find something that we all share. That's where we came up with the fact that we're all females. And we kind of built off that, and that actually created more of a creative mindset within us. That kind of helped.
Yeah, and to go off of Tia's point, we were all kind of stressing out because we were all saying we're not creative people. We all kept saying that, but I don't think you necessarily have to be creative in order to tell a story or in order to create a story. And so like seeing everyone's different stories and how different groups told it, I think it just shows like you don't have to be super artistic or creative. You can just share your story or share a piece of you to be a storyteller.
That's it. Share a piece of you. I love it. We have one group who has not spoken yet. What was it like for you? Tracy?
I trusted, even though I don't know if you said this explicitly, that this was low risk. So we didn't know what to do, but we didn't mind, I would say. I'll let Aiden speak for himself, but I felt just like it didn't matter. We would just do whatever we would do, and that I didn't feel like there'd be any consequence to that. I trusted your assurance that there were no wrong answers. So we were comfortable. I felt comfortable.
Beautiful. Aiden, you want to add?
Official Discord.
Yeah, I agree. We were like, we got in there, we were a little bit nervous, didn't know exactly what to say. But then we were kind of like, there's not a lot of directions for a reason. There's nothing that we could say that'd be wrong. So let's just go and figure something out, and we'll go with it.
Who else was in your group?
It was just us.
It was
just the two of you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Veronica.
Carmen was there, but she was just there for IT support. So she did not participate in our co-construction.
Got it.
If I can jump in really quickly, I didn't participate in any of the storytelling, but I can speak to sort of navigating all of your anxieties, right? I don't know if you all know, but Zoom sends you notifications when someone needs you. And for me, and to be honest, I still feel that anxiety. I'm trying to bring myself down from it. But for me, it's juggling, respecting this process and understanding that there is a method to Veronica's madness, and making sure that you all feel comfortable enough to participate. And so it was nice to see in real time sort of just the confusion and the shock of how dare you ask us to do something without giving us the instructions in the Zoom chat. And then slowly people saying, okay, well, we've got 15 minutes left, so we have to present something. So I just wanted to speak to that and honor both sides of it, the confusion, but the respect for the creativity. I'm
glad you mentioned it. I was actually going to keep you for last, but I'm like, let's just let it play out and see, because I felt it from you as you were navigating all of us, including me, because I was trying to send the message and I couldn't send you the message, and you were kind of figuring out, okay, how do I make it work? So I love it. And I think we have one more group that has not spoken about their experience. What was it like?
Our group spoke, Virginia spoke. I think we, Henry and I haven't spoken, but I would reiterate, it was amazing to me, and kind of having my teacher hat on when we got to the group. I was like, I could remember singing out of the directions, and Virginia was like impeccably, she could say, okay, this story was the time of the birth, the first memory. I mean, she had analytically gone the story. And then it was thinking to me, okay, when we, as when I'm asking students to do things, we all come into what we've heard so differently. And so Virginia was really able to step up and sort of guide us and get us started, and kind of, we all thought, okay, what do we do for actions? And then Henry and I, just jumped into sort of being from the music side. Okay, we feel good there. And I'll let Henry speak for himself, but it was like, that part was kind of the natural piece of it. But I think it was amazing to me, like Virginia had heard everything, she knew kind of, and she guided us through that. But then, also we all, if we didn't all hear it and capture it, we would have been at very different places when we showed up. And so that kind of mentorship, but also, how we communicate and, how we show up may be different, depending on what we heard, what we can remember, how we process things, what our bandwidth is today, whether our internet's cutting in and out and we can actually have the opportunity to follow everything. So I was thinking about all those things.
Beautiful. Go ahead, Henry.
Yeah, so like when we came into this whole thing, I think there was definitely a lot of confusion in our group about like, well, what do we do for this? But the one nice thing about it was that, like, I find this is somewhat of a rarity just in terms of group projects sometimes, is that not a single person was like, okay, I'm taking charge, I'm doing this the way that I want to do it. We were all very open to the creative process and opening up to other people. And it just kind of happened to work out that we had someone who was fantastic with singing and talking and movement, and two people who happen to do music. And it just like, it fit together, but also everyone was willing to both pitch in and also like accept that they weren't the centerpiece of everything, which I think was really nice.
Beautiful. Carmen, I feel like I want to call on you. I see a smile and I see so many things going through your face that I want to call on you. So were you in a group? What was your role? How did it feel?
I was in the same breakout room as Aiden and Tracy, and I would just want to say that it was very interesting to see them go from, okay, we don't know what to do, to really just getting to know each other and kind of draw on that for inspiration.
Beautiful. And Sally, I'm assuming that you did not participate. You are just present for captioning. Okay, great. Beautiful. So this is how I do my work. I pretty much throw you in and you figure it out. And this is kind of the result of my upbringing also. And so I grew up literally as you are told the day before that you're leaving and then you're going into another country. So all you have to do, you have minimal time to pack up everything and then go into the place. So for me, that's how and that spontaneity, that creativity, that let go of everything is for me the beauty of creation and creativity. And the reason I say that is even when I talk with my parents or when I ask my father, like, what was it like growing up? And I always base all my work on that. So his thing was that telling stories were part of their upbringing. So when you get out of school, you go and meet with your friends and you create stories from the stories that you've heard that have been told by your aunts and mothers and grandmothers and everything. So the reason it was important for me to actually read the story to you was just to give you that and then let you go into whatever it was, whatever you could remember, whatever it was, your body was going to retain something that was going to be meaningful, and that was going to be the jumping off point of your creativity. And for me, being in that mold where instead of having, okay, step 1, you do this, step 2, you do this, step 3, you do this, which you kind of had, but it wasn't present. I was just like, go loose and figure it out as if you are, into a new environment and trying to figure out how everything works. And I love that you were actually able to create something and get to know one another, which we could have done at the beginning. But for me, it's kind of a waste of time, because if we are in a group, we are doing that, and we get to do it even at a deeper level than if we would have said, my name is this, I am a third year this, I do this. It's just boring information that for me are meaningless in the process of creativity. It's like, yeah, keep your academia over there. Let's just create stories and work and figure out how we can be all together in the same room. So for me, it's always about bringing back the memories of my ancestors, because storytelling is part of who we are and what we do. Having the name of the, the name of our land is what we do. So it's always about how do I create in my work, in everything that I do, an environment where people can come together, and by the time they leave, they've actually created a deeper meaning than if we would have just been, I don't know, doing everything that you get to do in your classrooms with your professors, leading whatever. And for me, it's also about kind of breaking down the power dynamic that's always present within academia and allowing everybody to be at that same level where, yeah, I don't think I have the leg up here. So how do I reach out to the other person in order to create that environment that's going to help us all evolve together at the same rate? So that was my goal in this process. And I'm glad to see that it actually worked. And people, you had a very interesting spectrum. And it was just beautiful to watch and to see and to be part of. So I'm gonna stop there and ask if there are any questions at all before we move together, and where do you want to take this conversation?
What classes do you teach? I want to be part of them. I just keep thinking about that. I just don't know. It's the opportunity to ask the question.
Thank you. It's kind of happened very interestingly. I took 2020 off. I say I'm just gonna do me and concentrate on me and figure out what I want to do with my life. And so I don't know yet what I'm gonna do, but I know that 2021, I'm starting to actually figure out what I want to do. And what I want to do is actually have, gathering where we just create, but I don't know yet. Once I know, I will definitely reach out to Emily and send the information to you. But right now, I'm still in that phase of confusion.
And Veronica, where are you?
I am located in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Okay.
Yes. It's a beautiful day today. Please don't be shy. Beck, you have a question that's mulling in your mouth?
No, I was just thinking that I appreciated this, that I didn't know what this would look like or what to expect. And of all the global ed forums, this is definitely a different direction. But I think that it added something great. And I think that, I don't know about everyone else, but I'm glad I was here for it.
I second Beck's. This was really rewarding when it all came together at the end, or towards the end. The middle was hard.
Susan, I saw you smiling. Maybe you had something to say.
I just really enjoyed this. It felt like a break from, I think a lot of us are doing a lot of meetings over Zoom and a lot of school and a lot of lecturing over Zoom. And so I think when you get on Zoom, you kind of know what to expect and kind of like, kind of dreading it. But this was really nice to talk to new people and just to do something a little bit outside my comfort zone. Personally, I'm not a super creative storyteller person, but it was just really nice to have a break from kind of class and meeting grind on Zoom.
Beautiful. Michelle, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I was just thinking something similar to Suzanne. To be honest, I'm not that kind of person that always participates in everything. So for me, like just stepping out of my zone was something that very challenging, but at the same time, something that I'm glad that I did.
Lynn.
Go back to previous questions, like when will we carry this storytelling activities, and what I want to say is just like I just think a little bit about it can be considered as part of the energizers or icebreaker when we're doing some design training program, conduct some training program, and we can actually just consider this as some very good start, like starting the class or training by requiring the student or learner to just randomly telling their stories. So I think that can be good and very effective to get into a very engaging environment.
Beautiful. Tia?
Did you say Tia?
Yeah.
So additional to what everyone else said, I love stories. I never felt like I was a creator of a story, but growing up, my dad used to tell me Anansi stories before going to sleep. And I do find stories very important. But with where I live and kind of being caught up with so many things, I actually forget how important they are and how important they were to me growing up. So this kind of gave me that feeling back when I was a child and my dad used to sit and tell me Anansi stories. So thank you.
Thank you. Henry. Oh, Elizabeth.
I want to jump in. Tia,
Yeah.
you just reminded me, I was thinking about storytelling, if I tell stories, and to my daughters, if I tell them a story before bed that I made up, that actually is based on stories that my dad told me that he had made up about his adventures he'd had with his childhood dog. It's funny, my little 5-year-old retells those stories, but she doesn't tell stories from a book, right? If I read her a book, the same book over and over again, she never retells those stories. She retells the stories of when her Uncle Stevie fell through the trap door and was imprisoned by munchkins making M&Ms. Like, that's what she retells. And that's one of the stories we tell over and over again, and how he escaped. So Tia, you just sort of inspired me that I need to keep that going. Thank you. And thank you, Veronica, for inspiring me about storytelling as well.
Beautiful, thank you. Tracy, I see you, your body wants to say something, so go ahead.
I'm struck by these, like, I don't know if they're contradictions, because that makes them seem like they don't go together, intersections of both the sort of strict rigidity of you know, demanded cameras on, which is without without apology. You didn't fill that out or explain your rule. It's just, that's your rule, or else you'll have to leave. And I don't, you know, that is not something I'm accustomed to. So I'm struck by that. And yet this, as I said, I really did feel this sense of low risk. I heard and understood that whatever happened in this breakout would be okay. So that how those go together, and kind of, you did have these 3 steps that were laid out, but also this open-endedness of you can't be wrong. So I'm thinking about the interplay of the pillars or the foundational pieces that you implement to leave space around those, so that what can be open and come that you didn't anticipate, that you're not driving, is able to arrive, but it arrives in through a vehicle of some very specific things that you prioritize and hold dear. So I'm just struck by how those go together.
Beautiful. Well said, well said, well said. All right, I'm gonna call on Henry, Carmen, Aiden, and then Emily for the word of wisdom to close us off. So go.
Yeah, so when I was in like elementary and middle school, I assume most of you are educators. Is that true in this meeting? So I went to a system called Waldorf. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, Rudolf Steiner, and it's very, very artistic in the way that it teaches and all of that. And so that was how I grew up. But then I went to a public high school and then to American University. And in the past 8 years, or in the past like 6 years, it's been doing public or that type of education. I've kind of strayed away from the creative way through which to learn things. And so this was a very nice bringing it back to my roots and stuff like that, which I thought was a really nice thing, especially with all this Zoom and technology. Because at Waldorf, we didn't use computers almost ever, so it was like, oh, bringing it back to the original roots. So that was very nice. But yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. And Emily, before you speak, I actually want to give a chance to David to also close off. So you two are going to give the words of wisdom for the end. So go ahead, Carmen.
Me, I didn't really have any words of wisdom.
Going back to the sharing, yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, I guess, follow whatever mode of expression is most natural for you. And, don't be afraid to experiment with others too, if you so feel the inclination.
Yeah. Thank you. Aiden, I think you've spoken already, right? I'm not sure. Can't keep track.
I have spoken, but I can say one last thing. I just want to thank you for this because this was really cool. Not what I was expecting at all. But I think this is like a really cool program, and like I think it's gonna really help me like ground myself when I think back on this. So thank you.
Thank you. You two can fight for the last spot. So
I'll let David go last, because I'm sure he has some great words of wisdom. I just wanted to say thank you again. And I thought about kind of in the moment of where we together, if I had a moment, a half an hour of my week to just jam with Henry and Virginia, that my week would look so much differently, and that I think it would help me break Zoom fatigue, but also be so inspired. So I just wanted more from their stories. I got a little glimpse into their worlds, and I just wanted to know more. So, this was a great way to think about that. And, I'll reach out to Henry and Virginia, but it was a really beautiful glimpse into their stories and the co-creation. But I also thought about kind of what you modeled for us, of kind of in a way of ITEP has been thinking a lot about decolonizing education. I think you have decolonized Zoom for me today by showing us how to break things up and how to sort of intentionally address all of the things that came up when it was difficult or it was anxious or we didn't exactly know what we were doing, but then we also were able to have a critical dialogue in a very short time and in a meaningful way. But you also modeled really kind of more indigenous pedagogical approaches to also storytelling and creation, as well as our arts, how we can integrate art. So I think you did a lot of great modeling for us that I think is really important as we go forward with our work. So thank you for leading us through that and helping us sort of imagine a different possibility of how we think and learn and do and work together and connect together. And this was probably the fastest 1 hour on Zoom I've ever experienced for all of the ways that you set it up. So thank you.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you. With today's session, I think we saw some of the possibilities of engaging with each other as a community in these virtual spaces. So I'm really happy to be here with you all. I'm happy we had this opportunity to be together as students, scholars, practitioners, and try something different. I hope we walk away today bringing this creativity, bringing the energy from this space as inspiration to get through the semester and moving forward intentionally with our work and our lives in international education, but also in a broad sense. So with that, please join me in thanking Veronica. Thank you for joining us today. Wonderful. Really appreciate it. On behalf of ITEP and the team of graduate assistants, I just wanted to thank you all for joining us for this year's International Education Week and this semester's Global Education Forum lineup. Please be on the lookout for our Spring 2021 lineup that's going to be coming out very soon. We've got some exciting events in store, but until then, take care, be safe, and have a festive holiday season.
And I want to say thank you, Emily, for actually reaching out and starting this conversation from back on our days in graduate school. So this is a joy for me. I can do it every day, all day. So thank you for thinking of me and including me in your community, your new community in DC. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Veronica, and thanks, David. And thanks, Sally, also acknowledging Sally for being here and helping us with the closed captioning and making us reimagine also inclusion in a Zoom space. So thank you.
Thanks, David, for all your spider reflexes behind the scenes.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Have a great week, everybody. A great weekend, and thank you.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.